You've still not got the confirmation that it's all over League One wise, but you spoke after the last game about, that the writing's on the wall. How easy is it with the game remaining to look ahead and start thinking about next season and start trying to be positive after what is, definitely and undoubtedly something that you wouldn't have wanted in your managerial career?
Of course you wouldn't, but we're still involved in professional football, which is a wonderful industry to be involved. We feel we're blessed every day that we're doing this for a living and we get paid to do it. And we'll try and enjoy the last couple of days and hopefully enjoy the game on Saturday. The plan has already started for next season. It's not going to be easy, but it generally isn't here. We've used the biggest budget we've had this season. I haven't used it at all wisely, so I've got to take the big rap for that. Some of it was my own doing, some of it wasn't my own doing. The truth is, I tried to sign players and I couldn't sign them. And we maybe have to look at altering our wage structure next year. Keeping it within the parameters, but maybe altering what we do. I ended up having too many players that weren't good enough, consistently good enough. You can see in flashes and you can see why we've signed them, but in the main they haven't been good enough. Some have been a little bit further off the pace than what we ever anticipated when we first signed them. And so I'm the one who's responsible to pressing the button for the signing, so I have to be held accountable for that, and I'm not going to try and shirk that. I have to hold my hands up and say I got it wrong, and me getting that wrong combined with a horrendous run of injuries, a 50-50 bad disciplinary record and unfortunate disciplinary record, and we haven't been able to do what we normally do, which is find a way. And so I've got to work hard to try and learn from my mistakes last year, try and get more established players in. The punts I take have got to be a little bit more educated than what they were this year. People have to realise that we're never going to really sign an established League One or League Two striker or winger or centre half, because if they're established and they're very good, they're going to get more money elsewhere. So sometimes you have to take a punt. Now, Colby Bishop and Dion Charles were two classic punts, really. That paid off, and we got good service out of them, and we got a few bob after. Caden the same was a punt. You don't always get them right, and I have to be held accountable for that, and I'm determined to learn from it. I'm just determined to not make the same mistakes of going quantity. So if I don't get the players and I draw a blank in the window, so be it. I'll have to rely on a bit of youth, and we've got some good players coming through the youth system. And that's what I'll have to do, rather than signing players who are deep in my mind, at the back of my mind, I think they're not ready and they're not going to be playing for us. So why sign them in the first place? So that's all down to me, and I have to take full responsibility for that, and I do. And I'm more determined as ever to learn from that and go forward in a positive manner.
How much of a turnover of players do you anticipate there being this summer? Naturally, some will be out of contract, of course, but do you expect departures?
I do. Some will be on our terms, some won't. I've read the nonsense about, I'm sure you're going to ask me about the story going on that Tommy Lee's going to Portsmouth for 200,000. They've inquired and we've said it's 200,000. Well, I can put that to bed straight away, in the fact that anyone who inquires about any of our players, we never put a price on them. We tell them to make an offer. And then we assess the situation, myself and Andy Holt, and we think what's in the best interest of the club. That will always be the case. And so, whoever's invented that story, they've got a good imagination, but I can assure all you Portsmouth fans there's absolutely zero truth in that.
See, I didn't have to ask you.
Okay. Just preempted it.
Very well done. Is that a balancing act between what's best for the player, what's best for the club, and what's best for your squad for next season for a campaigning League Two?
It always has to be, doesn't it? You know, when I'm sure there's some of our players who will think that they're established League One players now and they want to play in League One. Well, if they're under contract with us, someone's got to make us an offer to make us think that we're best served by letting them go rather than keeping them. That'll always be the case in football, and you know, every player's got his price. Certainly at Accrington it will be. And as I said before, I've got to make sure I get a little bit more quality next season rather than quantity.
As far as young players are concerned, maybe players at the start of their sort of first team journey, early 20s, late teens perhaps, is it a bigger opportunity for those players in League Two than potentially it would be staying in League One?
Time will tell on that. You know, I said after the game on Saturday, we don't want to we've got to learn from the mistakes other clubs have made, in that the trapdoor doesn't break the elevator and send you right down, crash into the basement. I mean, we can't do that. And I don't think Andy will let that happen. I certainly won't want to let that happen. And we've got to establish ourselves next season and then go again. People never ever in the wildest dreams, and I think some of the fans might, but I don't think any of our fans dreamt that we were going to win League Two when we did 5 years ago. I think if we'd have come straight back down, they possibly wouldn't be as angry as what they are now. They probably wouldn't be as disappointed as they are now. And that's a good achievement by the sets of players we've had over the last 4 or 5 years, and the staff who work with us. You know, that we have been able to compete when we shouldn't have been able to compete. But I believed we could win League Two, and I've got to go into next season believing I'm equipped to get us back into League One, which I think we can compete at.
You've talked about wage structure. When you talk about that, is it individuals, you need to pay individuals more in order to attract a higher calibre of player? Is it you need fewer players, perhaps on slightly higher money? What's the metric there, for want of a better word?
I think probably fewer players on higher money, and not being afraid to push the boundaries a little bit in order to get the players that you want.
Are you going to be able to pay money out to sign players? Are you going to be able to? Because traditionally, I think you've got this reputation for paying relatively small but transfer fees to non-league clubs, non-league players, and bringing them into the Football League. Is that a possibility, or are you going to be looking at Frees and Bosmans and that stuff?
Well, I'll have that conversation with Andy next week. You know, we won't have finalised the budget for a couple of weeks, and you know, it's never been my decision that I can recommend that we spend X amount on a certain player. Sometimes I wish I had done. In the past, signed players that have kept half an eye on and have gone on to do well. We'll do what's best for the club, and I think, well, I know since Andy's been here, he's always had the club's interest at heart. He wants a stable club when we're both long gone. I don't think anyone can dispute that I've always had the club's best interest at heart, and Jimmy has, and latterly John Doolan. So it's not for the wanted sign, and there's no one felt as hollow or as disappointed as us on Saturday. Me, Jimmy and John. But we're made of strong stuff, and you know, we want to stick our chest out and embrace the challenge of next season.
You've got a game left. Is there time for players to change your mind?
Maybe the odd one. My mind's made up on quite a few already, so And possibly the odds one might have a chance for Saturday.
And just on a wider note, for you personally, I might be completely wrong, but I get the sense that you've not enjoyed this season at all. I get the sense that it's been hard work. How important is it, apart from being appreciative of being involved in professional football and all that stuff, how important is it that you can get back that sort of joy that you derive from it? Maybe it's down to winning games, but how much is it about coming back in the summer and enjoying it again?
This conversation a while ago about sport and playing sport, and I can't say I've ever really enjoyed playing football once I got quite good at it. I always felt as though I was having to prove myself. So it wasn't a chore, and deep down I loved playing, but I always felt immense pressure that I put on myself. And so when people ask me what sports do I enjoy playing, it should be football, but I enjoy playing golf and tennis and cricket because I'm not great at them. I'm not saying I was great at football, but I'm not good at them. But I can enjoy competing in them. And when you get to a level where you're constantly trying to better yourself, it's a fine line, enjoyment and stress and pressure, and you enjoy all the pressure and the stress, and you certainly miss it when you're out of work like I did. But it's about drive, and I don't think I've ever lost that this season. I haven't enjoyed it because I think the word that you're looking for my emotions this season is frustration. Frustration with myself for I know I've made mistakes, and I knew early on I'd made mistakes, and then you're trying to rectify that. Frustration not being able to sign the players that you target, which I did last summer, and then this January window was horrendous in the knockbacks that I had, and so I don't think the drive will ever leave me. When the drive leaves me and I don't get up relishing being involved in football, I think that's when it's time for me to walk away. I don't see that happening anytime soon. I've got a burning desire to be successful, certainly at this football club. And in the 21, 22 years that we've been in tenure here, we've done okay, haven't we? So anyone who thinks the light's gone out on me, they couldn't be further from the truth.
Are you as up for the next fight as you've ever been then? Is that what you're saying? Maybe even more so?
Yeah, without a doubt. I'm not looking forward to the window, because the windows have got progressively harder for me in the last 6 or 7, 8 campaigns, or 6 or 7, 8 windows have got progressively harder. And that's because more people are fishing in the same pool as you. There's more recruitment departments, head of recruitment, chief scouts, whatever. And so it is hard, but you've got to be up for the challenge, and we've always enjoyed defying the odds here. I speak to Paul Cooke a bit about football and that, and I told him a story about the Accrington fan coming up to me when we were playing Sheffield Wednesday and shouting at me, "This is men against boys," in a derogatory manner. And it should be, it should be men against boys. With their capacity and their clout and their money and their fan base, it should be men against boys. The fact that we're even on the same pitch is them beggars belief. And then you have the flip side to that. I speak to Jason before the game, who people are known from the ultras, and he was incredulous. He was saying, imagine Bamber Bridge playing, and this is no disrespect to Bamber Bridge playing Sheffield Wednesday, and their fans complain about that season. He said it'd be daft. So you get both ends of the spectrum. This is a wonderful club. It's a unique club. and we've done things that probably no one ever dreamt we could do. Does that mean our ambition's gone? Does that mean we've reached the end of the road? No, not at all. We've got a lovely stadium now, got great facilities here, and hopefully we can build a team that teams fear coming here because of the team, not because of the ground. And over the years, they've feared us as a team, and that's what we've got to get back to.